Hi everyone, this is Jonathan Marks from Inkwell Medical Communications. I'm also the president of the Las Vegas Health and Fitness Chamber of Commerce, and today we're talking about the art and science of communications, how to share your knowledge so people take action. So let's get started. So let me share a little bit of my background so that you can understand where my knowledge is coming from. I had a 27-year executive career in multimedia at Viacom, Pacific Bell Yellow Pages, TiVo, and ISP Channel, which was one of the first 4 high-speed internet access companies. I also had a previous career in nonprofit organizations. Since 2000, I've had a 20-year career as an entrepreneur in medical and health marketing, in CME and medical writing. CME is continuing medical education for health professionals. I've done a lot of educational webinars. I do online promotion of health initiatives, and I also do search engine optimization. And for the last 8 years, I've been a trainer, a communications trainer for the Centers for Disease Control. And you can see at the bottom of the page here, I've won quite a number of awards. An example of some of my projects are Inkwell Medical Communications, my company. As I mentioned before, I do work for the CDC. I run the Medical Writing Network, where people get trained online in medical writing. For the last 8 years, I've run ADHD in adults with ADHD specialists from around the world. I also run the website and dissemination for New Brain Nutrition, which is an organization of 18 university hospitals that are doing original research on the connection between what you eat and your mental health. And then these last 3 are part of another company that I'm with called Research Data Support, and we've created products called EasyDocs MD, which is digital patient intake, and COVID symptom tracker. And prior to all that, I ran Starfish Health Partners, which is a network just like Las Vegas Health and Fitness Chamber of Commerce. So I'm very happy to be back in this market again. There are 2 parts to this presentation. One is I want to teach you briefly how adults learn. There's definitely science behind this. And then the second part of what I want to talk about is generating audience and lifetime value. So let's start with how adults learn. There are 2 important principles in adult learning, and I've boiled this down from everything I've learned, but it's very simple. 1 is multiple media, and 2 is multiple times. Let's delve briefly into each one of those. Let's talk about multiple media. People have different learning styles. There are visual learners. They like the word see and look. What you want to do is show them pictures and video. There are auditory learners who learn better by listening. They may even close their eyes when you're presenting. They like the words hear and listen. There's also read-write learners, people who, as they learn, they're writing notes furiously, and this helps them retain the information. And then there are kinesthetic learners. They learn through action. Now, writing could be one of those actions, but they like to do things. I'm kind of like that in some ways. When I get a new piece of equipment and it's got instructions, I just start using the equipment. I rarely use the instructions until I get stuck. So these are 4 different learning styles. Now, this theory has been somewhat disproven, but I still like this thinking and believe that it is a very good way to show why you need to use multiple media. Now, let's try an experiment. I want to do a demonstration right now. First, I'm going to tell you what's on the next slide, and then I'm going to show you just the visual, and then I'm going to show you both the audio and visual, and you see which one is most effective for you. So the thing I want you to remember about multiple media, what have you just learned? People have different learning styles, so you want to account for that. Most people learn in more than one way with preference for styles. So it could be audio, could be visual. You might want to get them to do something. You might want to have them take notes. But the idea is to use multiple media in your communications. So tell me, how was that? Just talking to you, no picture. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm just going to let you read the slide with no voice. And now I'm going to do both. So let me review what we've learned in multiple media. What have we just learned? First, people have different learning styles, so you want to account for that. Some people like to listen, some people like to hear, some people like to write, some people like to take action. You want to use as many multiple media in your presentation as possible. Number 2, most people learn in more than one way with preferences for styles. So again, what's the learning there? Use multiple media. And finally, the third point I just want you to remember, and I'm repeating, is use multiple media in your communications. Now, that was multiple media. Let's talk about multiple times. What do I mean by that? You'll see this graph here, and on the vertical axis, you'll see knowledge. So it goes from 0 to high, and then the horizontal axis is experience. It goes from no experience to a lot of experience. So let me explain what I mean. When you started studying your particular business or started to get interested in it, you already knew something about it. You had a proclivity towards it. So your knowledge at time 0 when you started your business was really much greater than 0. But look what happens when you really get into your business and you start your business. Your knowledge goes way up very quickly and it continues to rise over time. That's because you've focused on this one thing and you're a specialist at it. So you should be confident in what you know. Your knowledge is high and it grows with time. But now let's talk about your audience. When you decide, hey, let's tell them about what I know, I want to share the information. They may know a little bit about it at time 0, but you're going to tell them for the first time. And this is what happens. Their knowledge goes up to your level of knowledge pretty much. People are smart. And I know you listening to me right now are understanding everything I'm telling you. You're getting it. You're saying, oh, great, love it. But what happens when we end this thing? Your knowledge is going to fall back down. You're not going to remember it. You're not going to retain it. Why? Because you have a lot of other things going on in your life, and I'm not number one. I'm number one in my life, but I'm not number one in yours. So you need to tell them again. If you just stop here, like, hey, I told them, and I told them my products, my services, they should buy from me, it's just not going to work. So what you need to do is tell them again, and then you bring up their level of knowledge again, and they walk away or they stop reading your email or your video and they go down again in their retention. But this time it's a little bit more because they've had a second exposure. And what we see here is that it takes normally about 7 exposures before people get pretty close to your level of knowledge and understand either your product or your information. So there's this 7 times rule. There are 7 touches before people really have knowledge of what you're talking about. There are 7 touches before using the information you're talking about, and there may be 7 touches before the purchase. So don't give up after the first exposure. You want to go back, you want to develop a relationship, you want to develop trust, and eventually their knowledge will come up to yours. They'll appreciate what you have to sell or share. They will be able to use your information and they will buy from you. So by the 7th time, sometimes you've created a monster where the people that you've just taught end up being really motivated and start learning a lot more than you when you start learning from them. So you can create monsters. It's not unusual. So let's review what we've just learned with multiple times. When you are an expert, you know more than you think you do. Be confident in what you know. Number 2, learn to love repetition. It's good for everyone. Number 3, when you get a no or a not interested, the person may need more exposure before a yes. When you get a yes, realize they may have had other exposures and they've already know about what you're talking about and they finally find you as the solution. But the idea is take your ego out of all this. Doesn't matter if you get a yes or a no. If you get a no, you're not terrible. If you get a yes, you're not great. You just need to take your ego out and repeat, repeat, repeat. So what we've done very quickly is talked about 2 important principles in adult learning: multiple media and multiple times. And notice that I've used multiple media, talking and visual, and I'm repeating my information multiple times. It's very important. So let's go on to part 2 of this presentation. How do you generate audience and lifetime value? There are 3 major steps to generating audience. 1 is designing value. Number 2 is promoting value. Number 3 is building value. And this applies universally to you no matter who your audience is or what your product or service is. You've got to go through these 3 steps. So let's talk about designing value first. And there are steps to all of these categories. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I just want you to understand these are steps, and you start at the beginning and you just keep working through, just the way David talked last time about building a unified content marketing strategy. So the first thing you have to do is target your audience. Who is your audience? You got to have them well identified so that you can address their needs specifically and build relationship with them. Number 2, you have to have their pain problems identified. Do you know the pains of your audience? Do you know what problems they have, what solutions they need? Pain, problems, whatever you want to call it, creates urgency, and urgency creates motivation. If you don't have a lot of motivation, you're not going to get a lot of traction. Now, there are ways to create motivation, but that's not for this session. We'll talk about that later. So I want you to think about your audience as having a pain or a problem, and they are stuck on Pain Island. And boy, they sure wish they could get off. I feel so sorry for this guy trying to fish with no bait, and he's actually sitting on a huge fish that's going to eat him if he's not careful. So you want to identify your target audience. You need to know them well. You need to understand what pain they have. Now, your solution is your pleasure boat. You're going to take your target audience off of Pain Island and put them on your pleasure boat, which is the solution to your audience's problems. And what are you going to do on that pleasure boat? You're going to take them to Pleasure Island. It's a very simple process. They have a pain or a need. You have a solution for their pain. You look for people with that pain. You solve the problem. You take them from Pain Island on your pleasure boat to Pleasure Island. It's really that simple. So let's talk about the third step, keyword selection. Have you identified keywords that you can rank for on the internet that speak to not your offering, but solutions to your audience's needs? A common mistake many of us make is to lead with, here's what I do. The problem is people don't really care what you do. What they care about is their pain and solutions for their problems. You want to focus on understanding their pain, and you want to focus on the solution to their problem. If my garbage disposal stopped working and my kitchen was getting flooded, I'd call a plumber with an emergent need. Now, I'm only interested in him solving my problem, which is to get my garbage disposal working and get my kitchen unflooded. But this plumber would make a mistake if when he answered the phone, say, sure, I'd be happy to come over. What we do is we put on booties before we come into your house, so we're keeping your floor clean. And then I'm gonna bring in my toolkit, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna use a wrench or a screwdriver. I've got both, so I'll just see what I need. And then I'll kind of open your kitchen cabinet and crawl under the kitchen cabinet there and take a look at your disposal. I'll try turning it on and off. I mean, you get the point. If this plumber goes through the process he's going to do to solve your problem, you're just going to glaze over. What this plumber needs to be focusing on is solving your problem, which is you've got a defective garbage disposal and a flooded kitchen. That's all you really care about. So focus on speaking to your audience's pain. What's the solution to their problem? Don't focus on what you do. Nobody cares. Okay, next. Pain relief products. Products or services you offer solve the audience need. Again, it's not about what you know, it's about what they need. So what products do you have that solve their need? The next step is, do you have a landing page on your website so that when someone finds you on the internet, you have an effective web landing page that gets them to opt in? You want to know what's the opt-in rate. We'll talk about in a minute in building value why you want them to opt in, but we want them to opt in. And then the next step is, do you have an efficient website? How efficient is your website at getting opt-ins and then creating relationship and sales? What's your sales rate? So these are 6 steps to designing value for your audience. You've got to know them, you got to solve their problems, you got to pick the right keywords they are looking for. You have the right products. You want to have a great landing page that draws them in, and then you want to have efficient website and processes that get sales. So let's talk about promoting value. There are lots of ways to promote value, but what I'm going back to is you want to use multiple media multiple times to drive your audience to a hot opt-in page where they want to offer their contact information so that you can begin developing a relationship. So you can do webinars and teleseminars, you can do emails, you can write articles, you can post on social networks, you can do videos, you can do posts and blogs on your website. You can also buy ads, which I rarely do. I mostly rely on these other ones. But the idea is you want to drive them to a hot opt-in page on your website where they've got an irresistible free offer and where you collect ideal prospects. Your visitors enjoy an irresistible free offer. You enjoy a new person who's an ideal prospect. So that's promoting value, multiple media, multiple times. And then the third thing we want to talk about is building value. So with your designed and promoted value in steps 1 and 2, you now get to build your list with ideal prospects who will buy from you over time. There's money in the list is what they say. You want to build your list. The next step in building value is no one needs to fill your need to have them buy something now. You get the opportunity to build relationship and trust over time. So you want to have multiple exposures. If they buy from you immediately, they've probably had previous exposures. If it takes 7 times to get a sale or a relationship, it just shows you they don't know much and they don't understand your value, and you have to build that value. You want to stay in continual contact with your list and your clients, which enables them to engage with and learn from you more deeply. If you think you can just have people visit your website once and buy, it's not going to happen. You need to develop a continuous relationship. Continuous engagement is what we call it. And this can, again, come through multiple media, whether it be videos or emails or webinars, whatever you wish. You need to be in touch with those people who have opted in. And it's from this trust and relationship you've built by experience or reputation that you get your first sale. They are exchanging your value for their money. And then what you want to have is upgrade sales. Your most reliable clients are those who've purchased from you before. What can you offer them now in exchange for their money? So how do you build more value with other products? And then finally, you have satisfied clients who buy from vendors multiple times. They recommend you to others. So the question is, when somebody comes to you, what's the real lifetime value of your clients? How much are they worth? When you get somebody opting in for your list, what's the percentage of them who become customers? And when they are customers, how long are they with you? And how much on average are you building their value? How much on average are they paying you for what you have to offer? So these are all measurements of how you build value. Building your list, relationship and trust, continuous engagement, initial sale, upgrade sales, and finally building that lifetime value. So let's take a quick review of the 3 steps of part 2. We want to design value, we want to promote value, and we want to build value. And the way we get value is by knowing our audience and meeting their needs. And so putting it all together, it looks like this. Now this is an overwhelming page. I've tried to explain it step by step. And again, you're not going to retain this all today. I don't expect you to, but these are the steps you need to think about step by step when you want to build a successful business. So again, step by step, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Your first most important step is to identify your target audience. What is their pain? What motivates them? And then what products or services you have that solves their pains, their problems. Now, if you want to learn more about this and follow us along on our journey as a chamber and take the journey with us in your business, I encourage you to join the chamber. So if you visit the chamber website, vegashealthfitnesschamber.com, you'll see the Join Us button there. And when you join, you can complete the workshop in our member area. You want to log in and click the Member Success Toolkit where this video will be so that you can watch it again. The slide deck will be here as well, and your worksheet will be there so that you can take next steps in using this information and beginning to identify your target audience and their pain and what you can do to offer them valuable services. So there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to do. We can help. We want to do this step by solid step. You want to go from identifying your target market to really building the lifetime value of a client. And there are a lot of steps in between. We can help you with this. Please email us about member benefits and custom packages we can do with you so that you can learn more. Again, a quick review. We've talked about the art and science of communication, how to share your knowledge so people take action. We've talked about multiple media multiple times. We've talked about designing value, solving people's pain. We've talked about promoting value, multiple media and times. We've talked about building value, building trust, getting repeated sales, and building the lifetime value of your clients. So again, your next step is to identify your audience, their pain, and your solutions. Thanks for watching.